Let's get one thing straight. This wasn't just a bad coaching decision. It was a cultural implosion, a self-inflicted PR disaster. A franchise fumble so loud, it shook the entire NFL. Because when the Cleveland Browns benched Shedeur Sanders hours before kickoff, with no warning, no explanation, and zero football logic, the fallout didn't just hit the locker room. It hit the league. And now, the NFL is in a storm it didn't see coming. You thought fans would just accept it? If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed. That we watch another primetime game like it didn't matter? Think again. Viewership didn't just dip. It plummeted. Broadcast partners are furious. Sponsors are scrambling. And the league? They're sitting in an executive office somewhere, staring at a dashboard of red arrows and wondering, how do we screw this up so badly? Let's rewind. This game was supposed to be the moment, the start of something big. The coming-out party for Shedeur Sanders, a rookie QB with the swagger of his father, the precision of a vet, and the star power of a Hollywood lead. The storyline had written itself. The ratings were forecasted to be massive. The fans were ready. And then, just hours before kickoff, boom, Stefanski benches him. Quietly, abruptly, like flipping off a switch. Joe Flacco gets the start. Now, no shade to Joe. He's a veteran. He's done the job before. But that's not the point. That's not what this game was sold as. What this season was sold as. What this franchise was sold as. We were promised a new era. And instead, we got a rerun. And the reaction? Instant. Explosive. Fans didn't just boo. They didn't just complain. They turned it off. Let's talk numbers. Within the first quarter, viewership dropped by 40%. Let me say that again. 40%. That's not a dip. That's a collapse. That's people actively disengaging. That's sponsors panicking in real time. Because Shedeur Sanders isn't just a player. He's the product. He's the content. He's the story. And in a league where stories sell, this wasn't just a bad call. It was a revenue-killing, brand-damaging, locker-room-cracking disaster. And you know who knew it? Everybody. Let's talk about the locker room. Players were blindsided. Some heard about the benching on social media. Others showed up to the stadium and realized Shedeur wasn't suiting up. No announcement. No leadership meeting. Just removed. And when you do something like that without communication, without accountability, you lose the room. And guess what? That's exactly what's happening. Reports are leaking. Players are frustrated. Some anonymous, some not. But the message is clear. We don't understand the decision. And that's just in the building. Outside, it's a riot. Hashtag Ben Stefanski. Hashtag Free Shedeur. Fans are demanding answers. Season ticket holders are asking for refunds. And NFL analysts are treating this like a live crime scene. Because this wasn't just a coaching preference. It wasn't even a football decision. It was political. It was a power move. And worst of all, it backfired. Let's talk about why. Because this is where it gets messy. This wasn't about Shedeur's ability. If you watch preseason, you know the kid was ready. He had command. He had chemistry. He had the moment in the palm of his hand. So what happened? Let's just say it out loud. Stefanski felt threatened. Not by talent. By attention. By the media circus. By the growing sense that Shedeur was becoming the face of the franchise faster than expected. And instead of embracing that, instead of saying, this is great for the team, let's ride the wave, he hit pause. He pulled rank. He sent a message, not just to Shedeur, but to the rest of the team. This is my house. And let me tell you, when a coach makes decisions to assert ego over winning, that's when everything starts to fall apart. Because here's the truth that the Browns, and honestly the NFL, don't want to admit. We're not just watching football anymore. We're watching stories. We want stars. We want emotion. We want narratives. We want the mic'd up moments, the Instagram posts, the rise and fall arcs. We want Shedeur. He's not just a quarterback. He's a content engine. He's a Gen Z icon. He brings in young fans, digital audiences, non-traditional viewers who otherwise wouldn't care about a Browns game. You bench him, you bench all of that. And the league felt it. Advertisers pulled mid-game campaigns. ESPN and Fox reportedly had to shift focus live because the entire energy of the game had collapsed. The vibe? Gone. The viewers? Gone. The trust? Shaken. And now the Browns are scrambling to spin it. They're saying it was a football decision. They're saying we're protecting him. They're saying this was part of the plan. But you know what they're not saying? Why? Why would you bench a quarterback that your owner personally endorsed? Why would you go against your own marketing rollout? Why would you sabotage the one storyline that fans actually believed in? Because make no mistake, this was sabotage. Whether it was politics, fear, ego, or some backroom power struggle, this wasn't about what's best for the team. It was about control. And if the NFL doesn't wake up, this isn't going to be the last time something like this happens. Because this isn't just about the Browns anymore. This is about the future of the league. Are we really going to pretend like star power doesn't matter? That entertainment value doesn't matter? That quarterbacks like Shedeur Sanders, who bring entire audiences with them, are just roster pieces? Come on, this isn't the 1980s. We're not watching games in silence, checking box scores in the newspaper. We're watching stories unfold in real time, on social media, on TikTok, on YouTube, through highlights, through mic'd-up sidelines. Shedeur is the NFL's future. And right now, the league is pushing him off stage. Why? Because they're scared of what it means to give that kind of player a real voice. Because once you do, you can't control the narrative anymore. And maybe that's the point. Maybe the NFL needs to stop trying to control the narrative and just let it happen. Let players speak. Let stars rise. Let the stories breathe. Because if they don't, if they keep playing politics with players like Shedeur Sanders, they're not just going to lose games. They're going to lose viewers. They're going to lose trust. And eventually, they're going to lose relevance. So here we are. Week 1. Viewership cratered. Fan trust at an all-time low. A quarterback controversy not because of performance, but because of power. And in the middle of it all, one silent figure, standing on the sideline, helmet off, ready, waiting. Shedeur Sanders. He didn't say a word. He didn't need to, because sometimes the loudest message is being forced to sit down. But don't worry, he'll be back. And when he is, the league better be ready, because this time we're not just watching a debut. We're watching a revolution. The NFL just got a front row seat to a very real, very public lesson. When you bench a star, you bench the story. And in today's NFL, the story is everything. Let's stop pretending otherwise. This isn't 1993. You don't pull a high-profile rookie quarterback, one the league is already quietly positioned as a future face of brand, and expect viewers to sit quietly, nod their heads, and say, "Coach knows best." That era is over, because here's the uncomfortable truth. The NFL is no longer just a sport. It's a content machine. It runs on engagement. It thrives on drama. And most of all, it feeds on characters. And whether the league likes it or not, Shedeur Sanders, he's a main character. You bench him, you lose plot, you lose momentum, you lose viewers. And now the Browns and the NFL are caught in the crosshairs of their own cultural whiplash. Let's talk big picture. Because this isn't just about one quarterback getting benched. It's not just about one coach making a football decision. This is about a larger identity crisis, one playing out across the entire league. You got owners and coaches still trying to operate like it's the golden age of Belichick-style silence, discipline, and locker room control, while the rest of the world is tuned into player-run podcasts, behind-the-scenes vlogs, and quarterbacks with more cultural pull than half the head coaches in the league. You can't run a modern league on an old script. And if this past week proved anything, it's that fans are done pretending that every roster move is just strategic. People are asking the hard questions now. Why was Shedeur really benched? Was it about power? Was it about optics? Was it a warning shot? Was Stefanski sending a message to ownership? To fans? To Shedeur himself? Or maybe it was the league, quietly trying to slow the rise of a quarterback who brings a little too much attention for their taste. A QB with a famous last name, a personal brand, and a fan base that doesn't need league sponsorship to show up. Let's be real. Shedeur isn't waiting to be made a star. He already is one. And that makes the league nervous. Because when the players have the power, when they can mobilize millions of fans without league mediation, what happens to the old guard? What happens to the ironclad hierarchy where coaches call the shots, GM spin the press, and ownership controls the narrative? That's the real threat here. Not Shedeur's skill, not his swagger, but the symbolism of what he represents. He's not just a quarterback. He's a shift toward player-first storytelling, toward transparency, toward visibility, toward a league where the helmet doesn't hide the human. It amplifies him. And in that sense, this benching wasn't just tone-deaf. It was self-sabotage. The NFL spent all offseason hyping the next generation of stars, trying to prove it could thrive without Brady, without Rodgers, without the old faces. And then, in their first real opportunity to cement a new face, a dynamic, media-savvy, Gen Z-friendly, dual-threat QB with actual charisma, what do? They bury him on the inactive list. They cut the mic before the performance even starts. It's not just bad optics. It's bad business. And now the business side is feeling it. Sponsors aren't just mad, they're worried. Networks are holding emergency meetings about unforeseen viewership volatility. Even fantasy platforms are fielding complaints from users who drafted Shedeur early. Because yes, he was that hyped. Let's also talk merchandise. Shedeur's rookie jerseys sold out within 24 hours of release. Online resellers marking them up 3x the price. And yet, the player everyone wanted to see, nowhere near the field. You cannot manufacture that kind of organic momentum. And the Browns just tossed it. And sure, they'll claim it's part of a long-term plan. That Shedeur will get his moment. That we just have to be patient. But patience doesn't trend on Twitter. Patience doesn't generate revenue. Patience doesn't fix this. Because here's what they fail to understand. The first impression was never about the stat line. It was about the spark. It was about showing the world that the NFL could evolve, that it could embrace a new kind of quarterback, one who talks openly, one who has a brand, one who represents more than just a depth chart name. And now, that opportunity is gone. And worse, they've turned Shedeur into a symbol of suppression. He's not just a bench QB now. He's a movement waiting to erupt. And the Browns? They're now the face of what happens when you try to cage that energy. Because let's be real, you can't bench a fan base. You can't deactivate curiosity, or momentum, or the literal millions of people who are tuning in just to see if Shedeur had the juice. Now, all those people, they're asking the same question. When will he play? And more dangerously, where will he play? Because you better believe the trade rumors are already swirling. The league saw the numbers, the clicks, the drops, the outrage, and somewhere out there, another franchise is watching this meltdown unfold and whispering, we'd never do him like that. And if the Browns aren't careful, they're not just going to lose a game. They're going to lose the guy, the one who was supposed to change everything. So where does the league go from here? Where does Shedeur go from here? That's the final act in this chaos opera. Because now, every week he sits, the tension builds. Every time Flacco throws an incompletion, the fan base stirs. Every post, every sideline shot, every non-answer from Stefanski, it all adds fuel. And when Shedeur does finally play, it won't be a debut. It'll be a referendum. On the coach, on the system, on the culture of the league itself. And it won't just be Browns fans watching. The entire NFL audience will be locked in because now it's personal. It's bigger than football. It's about the future of football and whether the league is ready or not. Shedeur Sanders is coming. What happened when Shedeur Sanders was benched? It didn't just cost one game. It set off a chain reaction, and we're only just starting to see the tremors ripple through the league. Because now it's not just about one rookie quarterback getting sidelined. It's about trust, about loyalty, about identity. The Cleveland Browns walked into week one with something rare, hope. A city that's been burned over and over again finally had a new story to believe in. Not just a player with potential, but a vision, a culture reset, a generational shift wrapped in cleats, charisma, and cool-headed confidence. And then, poof, gone, benched, without warning, without reason, without dignity. And now every decision the Browns make is being held under a microscope. Every throw from Flacco is judged with Shedeur-shaped expectations. Every press conference becomes a circus of carefully worded evasions. And Shedeur, he hasn't said much, just subtle social media moves. A cryptic post here, a calm nod there. But silence? That's just another language for stars like him. You think he's not playing a long game? This is a kid who's been coached by prime time himself. You really think he's crumbling over one game? No, he's watching, learning, storing it all up. And when the time comes, when the Browns either smarten up or collapse under their own ego, he'll be ready. And when he is, you'll feel it in your bones. Let's talk inside the building. Because if you think this controversy only hit the fans and media, think again. The locker room? It's divided, not in an obvious, punch-the-locker kind of way, but in the quiet, subtle way that destroys culture from the inside. You've got one group of players, veterans mostly, who are playing the team-first company line. Then you've got the others, the younger guys, the ones who saw Shedeur working every day in camp, throwing tight spirals under pressure, picking apart defenses, and staying late when nobody was watching. They saw the leadership. They felt it. And when he was benched, they weren't just confused. They were disillusioned. Because if he can get benched for no reason, who's safe? That's how you lose a room. That's how you fracture a franchise from the inside out. You don't even need a mutiny. Just silence. Just doubt. Doubt is poison in a locker room. And this team, they're sipping it every day. Meanwhile, the front office, they're scrambling. The owner, Jimmy Haslam, is reportedly furious. Remember, Shedeur wasn't just a draft pick. He was a hand-picked franchise face. The jersey sales, the press attention, the future marketing tie-ins. That was a plan. He was supposed to be the guy. And now, Haslam's stuck watching his golden goose collect dust on the bench while the team's strategic decision turns into a national joke. There are whispers, quiet ones, but growing louder, that Stefanski might not make it through the season if this mess doesn't get fixed. Not just because of the decision, but because of the fallout. Because here's the thing, NFL owners care about two things, winning and money. And right now, they're getting neither. Let's zoom out. This controversy isn't happening in a vacuum. It's part of a larger shift in how the NFL operates. We're in a new era now, one where players are brands, and games are just episodes in the ongoing docuseries of their careers. It's not just about wins and losses. It's about engagement. Every clip, every mic'd up moment, every tweet, it's currency. And Shedeur, he's a walking stock market surge. His presence raises the value of a team overnight. And yet the Browns bet against him. And in doing so, they didn't just lose ratings. They lost momentum, cultural capital, relevance. And in a league as cutthroat as the NFL, that's as fatal as fumbling the ball on the 1-yard line with seconds to go. But what about Shedeur himself? How do you bounce back from a debut that never happened? You keep playing the long game. You show up to practice. You lead on the sidelines. You stay camera-ready, poised, and professional, knowing full well that your chance will come. And when it does, you don't just play. You perform. Because for Shedeur, the next time he steps on that field, it won't just be a football game. It'll be a trial. Every eye will be on him. Every critic waiting. Every fan hoping. And you better believe he knows it. He's not going to show up and just play safe. He's going to take over. Because when you've been humiliated on the national stage, when your name trended not for greatness, but for being benched, you don't just get even. You rewrite the story. And when that moment comes, every throw, every audible, every touchdown, it'll feel like revenge served cold, slow, and perfectly calculated. Meanwhile, the league, they're watching this unfold like a bad experiment gone public. And now they're asking, how do we stop this from happening again? Because this wasn't just a PR hit. It was a warning shot. that you can't silence a rising star without consequences, that you can't treat players like anonymous cogs in the machine anymore, that fans don't just want competition. They want connection. They want stories. They want stakes. And when you bench the story, when you bury the stakes, you break the game. The NFL's business model is evolving whether they like it or not. And players like Shedeur Sanders, they're leading the charge. So what now? The Browns are boxed in. If they keep Shedeur benched, they risk losing him and the fans for good. If they start him too late, it looks like they're giving in to pressure. And if they start him now, it might be too late to clean up the mess they made. But one thing for sure, the next game Shedeur starts, it's going to break the internet, whether it's in Cleveland or somewhere else. Because you can bench a player, you can silence a voice, but you can't kill a story that's already in motion. And Shedeur Sanders, he's not just part of the future, he is the future. And the league better get ready, because when he finally takes that field, it won't just be prime time, it'll be Judgment Day. Because just when it feels like the storm has passed, when the press cycle starts to pivot to something else, someone gets traded, someone gets injured, someone posts something spicy on Instagram, that's exactly when it hits. The silence around Shedeur Sanders, that's not absence. That's tension. That's the hush before the crescendo. The scene in the movie where everyone thinks the main character gave up, before he walks back into frame with the theme song playing. And if you listen closely, you can hear it coming. Because behind closed doors, whispers are turning into strategy. The front office isn't just reviewing film. They're reviewing fallout. They're looking at retention rates, engagement metrics, merch dips. They're looking at money. Because this isn't just football anymore. This is the NFL's version of box office economics. And Shedeur, he's a blockbuster that didn't premiere. The star actor stuck in the trailer, while the studio fumbles the release. So here's the question nobody's brave enough to ask out loud yet. What happens if Shedeur Sanders doesn't wait? What if the kid, the prodigy, the media-savvy, camera-ready, locker-room favorite quarterback just says no? What if he walks into that front office, politely declines the wait your turn speech, and says, "Trade me. Let me shine somewhere that actually wants light"? You think the Browns are ready for that headline? Because guess what? Plenty of teams are. Teams starving for a story. Teams with crumbling offenses and desperate fan bases. Teams who understand that the NFL isn't just about excess and OS. It's about eyeballs and emotion and energy. And Shedeur brings all three. If that day ever comes, if the franchise fumble becomes a full-blown player exit, it won't just be a loss. It'll be an indictment, a cautionary tale, a chapter in every future GM seminar titled, "How Not to Mishandle a Franchise Quarterback in the Social Media Era." But the irony, the Browns still have a chance. They still hold the key, because Shedeur hasn't walked away. Not yet. He's still there, on the sideline, helmet in hand, composure intact, eyes focused, ready, waiting. The only question is, will they be smart enough to put the key in the ignition before it's too late? Because once that fire starts again, you don't get a second shot at lighting the fuse. And when Shedeur finally takes that field, you'll feel it, not just in Cleveland, not just in ratings, but everywhere. Because that won't be a comeback. It'll be a reckoning.